Hi, good morning. My name is Jason, founder of Seller Fuel. For today's training in Seller Fuel Tribe, we'll be interviewing Jewel from Rapid Ecom. He have a lot of experience working and helping with Amazon sellers and also e-commerce business owner on everything related to Amazon. For the topic that we'll be spending more time and do a deep dive on today is a more advanced topic. For those of you that doesn't know, there's a sometimes it's very hard for us to update our inventories, including titles, bullet points, and images. Just the way that Amazon works, sometimes you run into a whole bunch of different issues on how to update your listings correctly. So that's what today's training is going to be about. But I will let Jewel take a few minutes, kind of introduce himself. And Jewel, it's an honor to have you on our show today.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Happy to be here. And like you said, sometimes with flat files, that's a whole thing that needs to be demystified and get sellers more comfortable with. But Rapid Ecom Solutions, we've been around since 2015. Helping out sellers that are just starting their account all the way up to some of the largest sellers on Amazon. Doing 8, 9 figures and more. And over the last couple of years, we do all this normal things, product listing optimization and enhanced content, storefronts, brand building, PPC, your run-of-the-mill things. But the thing that we've kind of been known for is helping sellers with more difficult issues when it comes to their listings or with their Amazon account itself. And as you mentioned, flat files is a perfect topic to go over and to get sellers to feel more comfortable when using flat files.
Yeah, and
So
we actually already have a comment from one of the viewers, and he's saying that you need flat file, especially when your listing is suppressed and removed. 100% agree to that. So
first thing to do, absolutely.
yeah.
Yep. So
So
let's
I will let you dive into your presentations, and we'll open up to Q and the. For those of you the viewers that have questions, feel free to post it in the comments. We'll try to get to it after the presentations, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more question regarding about the flat file, how to use it during the presentation as well. So go ahead and share your screen.
Awesome. Love it. Let's get the show on the road. Okay. So sharing. All right. Here we go. So today we're going to talk about the 5 things that everyone should know when working with Amazon flat files. And I might add 1 or 2 more things into there that have just come to the top of mind. And the first thing to know is to not really be intimidated by feed files. Yes, it is correct that a lot can go wrong, but if you're working in a partial update, you're pretty much going to be safe. There's only so much error that could happen. If for whatever reason, an attribute is filled in incorrectly with a flat file or a feed file, and it's in a partial update, you really cannot go wrong with hurting the listing. If it's a full update, that's when we need to be extra cautious, check things, triple check things, and proceed with caution. So today we're going to go over some common errors that we see in flat files, all those crazy numbers like 8056 and there's a whole bunch, 9052. So we'll cover some of those and how to remedy them, as well as the category listings report, which is basically the closest thing you can get to a full filled out flat file for your entire catalog. We're also going to show how to correctly set up a new parent-child variation using a flat file. And then a big thing that we see, especially right now since new product types have been rolled out through Amazon, is in the back end when we have those little exclamation points and red dots all over. Those are considered matching errors, and we'll go over how to fix some of those. And that I put in stars as well below it, because now, for whatever reason, there's a new matching error that's mixing up EANs and UPCs. Okay, so these are the most common flat file errors. In the next slide, I'll go over kind of what they look like on a flat file and kind of how to fix them. We'll start with the first one. If for whatever reason you're in a partial update or a full update and you receive 8560, that just means that you're missing attributes in your flat file. that are required for your product type. And Amazon will go ahead and let you know in orange which attributes are missing. And it's always best if there's a drop down to use the valid values for that attribute. If the attribute is not relevant for your product, you're best going with just NA if it's required. And then we get the restricted item one. That's 8059. With 8059 restricted item, that's usually a item level gating, or the details page has been removed, and that's going to be found in your account health section. Next is going to be category approval, 8026. Basically, you need additional approval for your category, but this can also happen at the item level. Back to what we were saying previously about missing attributes. If you enter an invalid value, a good example would be, let's say, if you entered a brand that was incorrect for the listing, you'll receive this error. So you just have to go back, put in the correct brand, and update with partial update. And again, if anything is missing, this happens a lot if in the clothing category, or if a product has a clothing related product type. For instance, a shirt, you only have so many sizes that are valid for a shirt: small, medium, large, extra large, or if you go by sizes. So Amazon recently standardized sizes, and they're saying you could only enter one of these values for that specific size in that product template. And here's what some of those are going to look like. This is one on the top left is going to be that 8059 restricted item. And these are actually flat files that I've worked on recently, which, just to show the most recent errors that we're receiving. So again, you'd have to go back. This restriction is going to be in account health, and you'd have to appeal the listing. This next one here is an interesting one. It's happening lately if you're listing a new brand on Amazon. Even if you have a GS1 certificate, for some reason it's not connected yet with Amazon, and they're going to ask for additional brand approval. Quick workaround for this: get brand registered. You're going to need it anyway, but this will bypass the error completely. Okay, the next one we've been seeing a lot is just a complete glitch in Amazon's system. When creating a parent-child variation and you receive the unable to assign a child SKU to more than one parent SKU, ignore the second half of this error message and go into your manage inventory and double check to see if it has been added correctly. Even though this error is coming up, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be added correctly to your variation in your manage inventory. One of the other things we see a lot is if we're entering incorrect information for, let's say, a title or for the manufacturer. The way to remedy this is in the product ID, we're going to swap out that product ID for ASIN. So product ID becomes ASIN, and product ID type becomes the actual word ASIN. That should bypass the error and update the attributes the way that you're contributing through a partial update. As I mentioned, we'll go back. As I mentioned earlier about standardization of sizes, whomever at Amazon had this grandiose idea of saying, if it's clothing or if it's a certain product, there can only be XYZ values valid for that particular product. So being that this is clothing specific, they're asking the age range, adult or kids, toddler, and the apparel size, which is usually US numerical or US alpha. Enter in the size, gender, and this will correct. You do have to enter in all of these attributes. The way to maybe get around it, which is not as easy as it was once before. As you can see, the product type here is coat. If you change the product type that's not related to a clothing item, for instance, let's say sporting goods, you may be able to bypass this naming convention for the size. But ultimately, we do want to utilize what Amazon has been provided, because they're going to end up changing your product type back eventually. Okay, this one just happens to be another clothing item or shoe item, which is around the same kind of naming structure and convention as the clothing. And in this case, we're just missing a color name that Amazon has. Because this is a variation of size name and color name, we just need to add in the correct color for the color as well as the color map. All these could also be found, all these errors can also be found on the second tab, which will say feed file errors, and it'll show you the exact numbers with links to each of the error messages on Amazon's TOS or guidelines. And again, my favorite report would be the category listing report. It used to be that we have to call Amazon, get a support rep on the line, ask them to enable the report for at least 7 days. Sometimes they'll give it to you for 30, 60, but now it's across the board in just about every account. If for whatever reason you do not see it in your account, open a support ticket, ask them to enable the category listing report for at least 7 days, and you'll find this in your inventory report section. What we like to do is download it as an Excel file, and we just go as far back as possible, 1997, 1897, whatever you feel is where you want to land on it. It's going to give you the same report, and we do it for all categories. But one of the things that we don't usually think of doing is unprotecting the sheet and sorting our data so that we can find it more quickly and effectively. If you go down to the bottom of the template tab, you could right-click and unprotect the sheet. Right now, there is a glitch in some of these files where it's already unprotected. After we unprotect it, we go ahead and we highlight row number 3, which is all of the attributes that Amazon has, and we can go ahead and filter all of those. Within that glitch, it's also hiding row number 3. So you could right click and unhide all, or you could just drag it down so you have more room there. And one of the things I like to do is to color code all the SKUs and variation families you're working with. Some people can see better in colors than words, and it helps you keep things really neat and really organized. So once you filter, you're able to sort by different colors. One color for your parent, one color for all of your child variations within that same parent. And then, anything in white that we're not working on, we want to make sure that we delete from the sheet in itself. And here's what it ends up looking like. So of course, in green, we have our parent SKU, and then we have our samples here. In this case, if we were uploading these listings as new products, we'd want to make sure we add manufacturer part number. But if we're in partial update, we're just going to go ahead and leave that blank because it's not valid, or it's not a required attribute to upload with a partial update. Some of the things that are required for when uploading with a partial update are going to be your product type, your SKU, your brand name, your product name, and your item type keyword, as well as product type. Or excuse me, I should say product type and type ID. Those are going to be the most important attributes that you fill out and make sure you have valid values for when you're using the product feed file template. One of the other things I like to do is to freeze the panes so that we know which product SKU we're working on when we start scrolling to the right and filling out and updating other attributes. Now, one of the other things that we want to consider doing, which I think every seller should be doing, is going into the category listings report And any attribute that is not grayed out, add a value to it. Even if it's not relevant for your product, put NA. But if it is relevant, or we could have an attribute that makes somewhat sense for the particular product, we want to make sure that we do so. The reason for that is lately we've seen a lot of malicious sellers and competitors going into feed files and uploading incorrect information for different products. One that I've recently seen is another competitor, which it must have been a competitor, went into Amazon's TOS, went to the prohibited drug section, and they copied and pasted every single prohibited drug from Amazon onto another seller's listing, which automatically pulled the listing down. Now we could protect our listings by making sure that we're making those contributions. And since you're being brand registered, those other sellers won't be able to make those contributions. We want to make sure we do that across all North America, in Canada, Mexico, UK, whichever marketplaces your products are being sold in, and that'll help you protect your listings. That's super, super important to do. So even if you're not looking to update your listings anytime soon, download the category listings report. Make sure that your values are filled in. For instance, in item form, in this particular case here, we want to make sure that we have a item form for the product. Okay, and establishing a parent-child variation. One of the things we always see happen is the parent information for variation is incorrectly filled in. So we want to make sure that these are the two columns that are filled in. We want to identify which SKU is the parent. We want to identify the variation theme for the parent. And in the child ASINs, we want to make sure we map the child SKU to the correct parent, identify it as a child. We want to make sure it's a variation of that parent, and we want to have the same variation theme across the board. In this case, the reason why we have update on the parent is because these ASINs are all standalone listings right now, which we want to combine together in one parent-child family. Also, when picking your variation theme is going to be decided by the product type. So each product type is going to have different variation themes, which are valid for your product. In this case, our product type is nutritional supplement, and we have, it looks like 7 or 8 choices to choose from. For this one, we have size name. Okay, so back to what we were saying before, we have that issue with Amazon blocking your contributions and creating matching errors. This is an interesting one where we're contributing the correct name for the color as charcoal. However, Amazon has it spelled incorrectly for this ASIN. This is one of those instances where we want to go in, put the ASIN as our product ID, ASIN as product ID type, and re-upload the file using the correct spelling of the word charcoal. Okay, and the next thing we want to look at is when we add values and attributes and there's no drop-down set of values, you need to make sure that there's no special characters being used, and that includes commas, periods, backslashes, quotations, and we want to make sure that there's no HTML. For some other reason, we see what happens a lot is that they have more characters in the listing, or they forget to check characters in the listing. So your title's over 200, or there's special characters in the title. That'll also cause the same matching error, and Amazon would not recognize that. They would just present that matching error in the same way here. We do need to fix those errors before, but you can go ahead and put ASIN in the product ID before you go ahead and try again. One other thing I want to mention is we were talking about EANs and UPCs before. Sometimes files are updated incorrectly, and sometimes sellers add UPC instead of EAN as the product ID type. Your flat file is going to be your best way to go ahead and fix that. If Amazon in the listing is showing on the product details page EAN, but you're contributing UPC, make sure to go back in the flat file, update the product ID type in a partial update to EAN, and that should clear out that matching error and lock your product ID. It's just one of those things we've been seeing a lot happen lately, and we want to make sure you're able to fix it. And that's what we have today. I hope you're more comfortable using flat files.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. I think this could be, let me switch my screen and hopefully you can hear me okay. So
Yep.
this definitely is a more advanced topic. I mean, I think only Amazon seller will actually geek out about the Amazon flat file. It's such a niche topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's also very beneficial for you to kind of go over the common mistake. And even with my own team, we still struggle with a flat file after being selling on Amazon for so many years. And that's actually one of the reasons why we decided to use your services for one of the listing that we keep on having issue with updating the images on the back end. And so I can definitely say good thing about the thing that you have done to help us with updating the listing. So I think is any other things you want to add about working with Firefly besides the one that you already shared?
Yep. If you are updating images, make sure not to use Google. A Google Drive does not really work. Always update using Dropbox. You could also use a Shopify link for images as well, but Google does not work in that case.
Oh,
So
okay,
you
that's
always
good to
want to,
know.
yeah, always upload your images to a Dropbox, or if you're using them on Shopify.
Okay, okay. I wonder maybe that's why it never worked for us. So,
Maybe,
but yeah,
yeah.
maybe yeah, that's a good tip. So
Yep.
yeah, but I think for those of you that are still watching live, feel free to drop a question in the comment. If not, we'll also send out an email with a replay for today's trainings, and you can feel free to reply to the emails. And if there's any questions that we can help answer, we can also answer that in the email form as well. But thank you so much for your time today. What is the best way for people to get hold of you if they need some help with their Amazon flat files?
Absolutely. The best way to contact us is go right to the website, www.rapidecomsolutions.com. I don't know, I might be crazy, but my cell phone is right at the top of the page. Feel free to text.
Yeah,
Feel
yeah.
free to text, call. If I don't pick up, there's a reason, but we'll get back to you. We make ourselves pretty accessible. If you have a more in-depth issue, make sure to email us. You can use the contact form right on the website. I see every single one of them that comes through. So we will get back to you, and hopefully you feel more comfortable using flat files after today. That's the goal.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll reach out if there's any advanced question that we couldn't answer that we might need your help with
Yeah, I
for
do
sure.
want to
So,
answer one question that came in. If you
mm,
do see your listing is suppressed for whatever reason, as I
mm,
mentioned, make sure you go through each of your attributes, check and make sure that you're not using subjective adjectives in your title, like the word perfect or best or ideal. Amazon may suppress your title for doing so. If you say, the word customer in a listing, Amazon may suppress one of your bullet points or prevent your bullets from updating, or another attribute from updating. Another thing that could happen with search suppressed is your images. That's always a big one as well. We need to be really creative when using text on a main image that would, prevent you from having the bot scour the listing and look for other things to suppress you for. But
mm.
I hope that answers your question. Of course, you could always contact us, but those are the things that we see all the time. And of course, if characters are over their limits.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to add to that, there's also like a huge list of words that you cannot use as anything related to therapeutic or anything related to it's like pharmaceutical claims or any medical claims. Of course, you can never use it in any part of the listing that we have an issue with our product before that. I think we casually mentioned about anxiety relief or something in somewhere in the
Yes.
bullet point, and that could something similar to that, which Amazon treated like a medical claim, and I think that got our listing suppressed almost right away. So
Exactly. Yeah. There's other things such as, diabetes, lower blood sugar, hypoallergenic could be a trigger word, allergy, bacteria, germ, anything that's related to the pesticide realm, even the word bug might do that. But, there are ways to fix them with the flat file. We just want to make sure that we're, extra careful, and whomever is working on a product like that, to recognize that we cannot make claims that may be against, U.S. regulations. And that's really why it happens. Amazon, a governing body goes after Amazon, such as the EPA or the FDA, and then Amazon has to get very strict on that. But like you said,
yeah,
there is a big full list of no words that we want to avoid.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, but thank you so much for your time today. I think it's very valuable to a lot of our viewers, and hope we can also hear from you again in the future. So
Yeah, looking forward to it. It was a pleasure, Jason. Always. It's great. And hope to hear from you guys soon.
okay.